Welcome to Journeys into Enlightenment with Janet. Join Janet and her friends as they gather at the intersection of consciousness and self-experience, what being consciousness in human form is all about. Access heart-centered awareness with them and feel the difference in the moment that will last a lifetime.
Hello, and welcome to Journeys into Enlightenment with Janet. I'm Janet Barrett. Thank you for joining me here at the intersection of consciousness and self. Here, we are together in a reality of heart-centered awareness of the field of unified consciousness. It is oneness. We are present in moments of awareness easily available as we sit in the stillness and cessation of the bits of bias and perception we call our self-identities. Our sense of essence, what is at the core of each of us, comes into awareness. We relax and let ourselves loosen what we have been holding on to tightly today and breathe. Feel your breath move through your heart, bringing being into form, and fusing and easing into feeling the delight in sitting in shared resonance with others and our actively shifting reality around us. Sitting in harmony, not the discordancy that you can be aware of. Go deeper than that, and just be. In form and out of form. Just let, just allow. Today's episode is all about blending the appreciations of the quantum sciences into our spiritual and religious practices. It will deepen and open us up to go beyond the expected limits found in our thinking and being in form. George Thomas of iwantjoy.com, experienced in many different consciousness technologies, shares with us the freedom available in enjoying life with a little reorienting. Our word today is joy, which is a feeling of great pleasure and happiness. What gives each of us pleasure and happiness is unique to the individual. It is totally subject to how and what we think and feel what we are in the world. George's reference for all of us humans is what he calls IMDs, individual manifestations of divinity. George Thomas is filled with life and laughter and joy. He is filled with life that appreciates its own wonder and the wonder found in others. We met years ago at a Matrix Energetics seminar. In connecting with him again, I find him to be both a resource and resourceful personality. Just check out his website, iwantjoy.com, where you will find he offers a wide collection of sources about being to be enjoyed. He is also resourceful in exploring what life is about. It is this ability to find quick and clever ways to overcome difficulties he really does well. Presented with a challenge, he understands that he doesn't have to have the answer, only the willingness to ask and listen. George is a practitioner of multiple healing modalities, including focused mind healing and the laying on of hands. He was certified as a practitioner of Matrix Energetics in March of 2011 and received certification from the Horizon Foundation as a hypnotist in April that same year. He is an ex-radio program director, having done commercial and industrial voiceover work since 1989. He gained his love for teaching in the dance business as instructor with the Fred Astaire and Arthur Murray Studios. He offers through his website and YouTube channel free content and training in meditation and faster EFT. His first book, Out of the Blue, Miracles for Beginners, is available through Amazon.com and as an ebook at www.iwantjoy.com. Hi, George. It's so nice to join you today.
It's great to be joined.
That's a wonderful way to put it. To recognize our connections, aren't we?
There you go. Yeah.
There we go. So, everyone, well, we'll see where this episode takes us today. As with George being with us, and he has a remarkable ability to be present right now, things happen because he just has got his frame of reference all lined up that way, which is what we love. And he and I met years ago, as I said before, during the bio. And so we have a lot of the similar matrix energetics shift awareness present. So he's a perfect person to talk about consciousness technologies and how they bring us present and letting go of our story and our attachments. So that's what we're going to do here for the next little while, George, is be connected and be aware of it and see where we go in the field. All right?
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good. All right, everyone. So let's just access being present, which just means moving all that stuff over there a little bit and just notice your breath and notice your heartbeat and connect the two. As you connect the two, you're bringing being into being in form. And so just let that awareness be there. You can feel the calm and the quiet and the sacred of the space. And this is where time and space are very malleable and are really changing their habituated places that you and I tend to hold them in our daily lives. So in this reality set, I'll call it active because creating reality is an active, ongoing experience. And I won't call it a process. I'll call it an experience. And there's a difference with that. So everyone just notice as we go places with George today. Tell us about consciousness technologies, George. How did you get started with those? What was your interest in it?
Well, initially, my good friend and mentor, fellow hypnotist, he was a hypnotist before I ever got that training. But he came over to the house one day and says, okay, well, I just finished this thing, and it's really interesting, and I can't really tell you exactly how it works, but you have any ailments? And I said, well, I've been having some pretty bad acid reflux the last few days, the last few mornings. He said, okay, well, come here, stand up. He got behind me and put one finger on my back and another finger on my back. Didn't say anything. I waited a couple minutes. And then he said, okay, see what happens, And that was it. And then we talked about other things and so forth. Well, the next morning I woke up, no acid reflux. The next morning, no acid reflux. It was just gone, bye-bye, as if it had never existed. I said, I need to look into this. I need to find out what the heck's going on. And sure enough, I attended my first Matrix Energetic seminar, yada, yada. Long story short, got the training, wizard training, practitioner training, got certified, all that kind of stuff. Shortly after there, I gotta say he's a good friend and hypnotist, and he turned me on to Omni Hypnosis Center in DeLand, Florida, and now I'm a certified hypnotist. And along the way, I've got some training with the Ozark Research Institute and Harold McCoy about focused mind healing, and Michael Steltano with the laying on of hands, and studying the technologies that we can do with our mind. We know we go to the gym and work out every day for half an hour. We get better muscle tone, and it turns out that if we work our minds, we can improve it. And my story is, and what I tell people is, incrementally, a little bit at a time, change what you think and how you think, and you get better circumstances. Because, and here's a short version, your circumstances are a result of behavior. Your behavior is a result of your beliefs, and your beliefs were formed by what you've been thinking. A belief is just a thought you keep on thinking. So if you can incrementally begin to change what you think on a regular basis and habituate gratitude and things along those lines, you'll find you're going to be in a different path, and you're going to wake up one day and go, wow, I had no idea.
So it really sounds like a matter of educating, right?
It's all about educating. It's all about education. 40, 50 years ago, there was no consciousness technology. We didn't study the mind. And the inroads of the way we're going today, good grief. I mean, it's 2020 for Pete's sake. And we've got all these modalities and reconnection and matrix energetics and pick something. I mean, it's awesome. And the more tools you get, and as you integrate the different teachings, the different understandings, and you start to realize and recognize that, this one path, there's more paths, and they're actually interconnected. It'll blow your mind.
All right, everyone. So you can feel George's wonderful passion and excitement about being present and how he's refined his own skill sets and remarkable ability to pay attention. And you can see where he's in a user-friendly state. And this is what we want you to be aware of, is that life is user-friendly. Information, our emotions, our experiences. When you're reframe how you hold your reality together. This is what we're talking about. So now everybody just notice what might be showing up as you relax into this, as you allow essence and your connection as consciousness to be more present. And you put away that story a little bit about who you are and what you think you are and what you feel and do, etc. Just allow yourself to be in the space of maybe no definition. And we invite potential. We invite possibilities. And we just go with being present now. And you start to feel the space between your past and what you think your future is. And you just let yourself be in this space. And let's just see what loosens up. So if I were to ask you, George, what do you notice right in this moment? What might come into your awareness?
Peace and quiet, even though there's noise upstairs. Banging, but it doesn't. But the peace is palpable.
Right. See, everyone, you can have that. Each of us, wherever your location and what you're doing, there's always going to be the surface because we're connected. But within ourselves, that's what we're looking for. That peace and quiet that's allowing information without your references of your daily habituated experiences and emotions and feelings to be present. And the power of that. It is nice and quiet in here. Thank you, George. That's a lovely way to put it. So tell us more about consciousness technologies. What is it you think that has caught fire?
People are waking up. It's if you or your listeners are familiar with the work of David Hawkins and the power versus force and so forth, talking about the level of consciousness, calibrated consciousness of humanity as a whole, it hit someplace, I don't know, 82, 86, whenever they have the harmonic convergence of the planets and so forth, things bumped up above the level of 200. If people aren't familiar with it, they just find David R. Hawkins, MD, PhD. There's stuff about it on my website, but he's got bunches of books. And I was, quote, turned on to him. You can tell I'm from the 60s, by Wayne Dyer back in the old days. He said, get this book, Power versus Force, and studied his stuff. And we have risen in consciousness. And the way I explain it is if you've got seats on the 50-yard line, you're right at the action. You're right there. You see the action right in front of you. Except that when the action moves down toward the end zone, if you were looking at a football analogy, you can see the stuff. But the guys up in the press box can see the entire field at once. Plus, they've got closed-circuit monitors all around. So they have a better view. It's the same action, but they have a better perspective. So as we raise or elevate in our own consciousness, we have a bigger picture. And we can see things from a larger perspective, and you rise up, and you do it on purpose. It takes work, but all things are possible. And we raise up above integrity, and we get up to willingness, and we keep going. And at the level of 500, there's love. And at 540, there's joy. And at 570, there's unconditional love. And one of the protocols that I teach is at 600. It's Ho'oponopono with name, which we can talk about a little bit if you like. But the point is that, boy, I'm just the most popular person in 6 counties. All right, we're going to put this, we're going to let that go to voicemail. All right, so anyway, so the point of it is that with desire, then you'll find a way. You keep looking. You know, you or I or Bob or whoever's listening to this can be the answer to someone's prayers, and they didn't even know you existed last week. But they come into your awareness, and you come into their awareness, and things happen, and wow, I just made a new friend, or I was just able to help somebody, or they were able to help me, or wow, I didn't know this information existed, and suddenly there it is. Because prayers are being answered, is one way to put it. Information is accessible as never before because the blockages are being knocked out and removed. And there's people actively working at removing those blockages. There's people who are meditating and working at knocking these distractions and all this, you'll excuse the expression, crap out of our daily lives, and we have time to think, if we will, and, you know, cut ourselves off from distractions a little bit. That helps.
Well, so what we're talking about is really the awareness of Rupert Sheldrake's morphic resonance.
Absolutely.
Awareness. And that we are all in shared genetic memory, that we are all actively creating. And when you still the mind, you know, and these is meditation and mindfulness training and all these different things. But what that's doing is stopping the story, the clutter, the unclarity that's being generated there. And you're going to the stillness awareness. We're looking at how we register as vibrational beings, stuff happening somewhere else that doesn't route through your construct, your control mechanism of how things work. It is totally beyond that. And it is information. So we're seeing it shown up in how we feel and the collective of a virus and all these different ways that information is transporting from here to there in the blink of an eye because there's no time, space, or distance in those quantum fields of awareness. And consciousness technologies to me really are about quantum mechanics, quantum physics, and I am not a scientist and I'm not trained in any of that. I just hold awareness of how I experience information when I allow myself to be free of what I think something is and just notice. How does that register for you?
And let go of the need to process it and figure out exactly. When I start a session with people, and I'd be happy to walk everybody through this real quick. There's an imaginary shelf in front of you, and it holds 200,000 tons. Now, 200,000 pounds would be a strong shelf, but you can put an aircraft carrier on this thing. It's not going to break. The other thing that's great about a shelf is if you put something there and you need to get it right away, you just reach out and take it. You don't even have to open a door. So go ahead and put on that shelf your need to understand exactly how this works. Put on this shelf your need to help me because you already know some techniques. And this may be a little bit heavier, but you can do it. Put on that shelf your need to be right.
Okay, so George,
those
everyone.
Three things. Hello, Norman.
So George is offering us, everyone, to pay attention right in this moment and see what happens, because each item that he just mentioned to put on that shelf has a resonance for you. So I'm going to slow you down, George, because this is such a beautiful, valuable information, and I want to make sure that people are present enough to register how they are experiencing and being in that moment. So what is it you want us to put on the shelf again? And let's see if we can track it.
And go through the process, Janet, because everybody can access this.
Okay.
On the shelf, go ahead and put your individual need to understand. I want to know how it works. How exactly is this working? Are we accessing the frontal lobe? Are we tapping into an alternate dimension? Those things may be important, but I drive a 4-cylinder car. And do the spark plugs fire 1, 2, 3, 4? 1, 3, 2, 4, 1, 4, 2, 3. What order do they fire in? I don't know. Is it important? Yes. If they fire in the wrong order, it won't work. Do I worry about it? No.
No.
I just left that to the engineers. So go ahead and let the engineers be in charge and put your need to understand it on the shelf. Put your need to help out, because I already know some techniques and I can do this. Go ahead and put that on that shelf. Your experiences. But I've got lots of experiences in training. That's good. That's valuable. I love that about you. And put it on the shelf for a minute. You can go back and get it. And then the one that's probably heaviest, it's not about your being right, but it's about the need to be right. Go ahead and put the need to be right on that shelf. You can get it back in a minute. Okay, now we're good. We're making progress. Do you feel that? Oh, we're making progress right here, right now. Okay.
Whoa, there we go. Okay, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you feel that. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, here's what I want you to do. Everybody, you're safe. You cannot get this wrong. I want you to let whatever happens next be okay, even if this happens right here, right now. Cleanse, heal, change, and go. Wow, yeah. That's okay. You're doing it right. That's right.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of shift in that, everyone. So you're doing just fine. And see, it can be that simple.
Thank you. Thank you for that opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah.
Because everybody that's a student of A Course in Miracles know you can't harm but yourself, and you can't help but yourself. So I did that to help me, and it helped me. So thank you, everybody.
It's been one of those mornings, I know. So everyone, just notice what it would be like. You didn't have to think it. You didn't have to have what he mentioning was mind, and how mind gets so involved in stuff. So we just put that over there. You don't have to know anything. You just have to allow. And it'll take you places, and we haven't set up to manipulate anything, but you're feeling unfolding. And it's going to be perhaps different for each of us in what unfolds and how our awareness works. So what are you noticing, George? Is there anything else we want to do with this shelf, or is there more?
Oh, no, we did so good. We did so good. And as you mentioned, everybody's different. And it's none of my business what Bob, Sally, or Susie's individual trauma or concerns or worries are, okay? None of my business. It's not that I don't care about it. It's just that I don't have all the knowledge required to go in and dissect the problems and find the solutions and do all that. What I say is, you may not believe in Raphael and the Ministry of Healing Angels. That's okay. You may not believe in the field and the fact that there's infinite potential, and the perfect answer to all of your concerns is right there, just outside your reach, if you will let go of your need to reach out and grab it and just allow it into your awareness. You know, those sorts of ideas. But it's awesome. It's rather ineffable, as the saying goes.
Yeah. Well, what you describe is the edge of the known, which is what we think is real, and the unknown, which is where our answers are. You can't get there from here if you think you know what it is.
Yeah, and if you already knew, you'd already be done it. You'd done it already.
You'd be all right. So it's being comfortable with not knowing and not having an answer. And I think society is so organized where people feel they have to do so many different things that they have to have an answer, and that there's something wrong if they don't. And what you're challenging and inviting people to do is to go back to what if we didn't know what we were doing and it didn't make any difference? If we can just let go of that need to be in control, because we're taught that we want control. What we want is flexibility. If we can just let go of a modicum of control, just crack that door a little bit, the love, healing, and forgiveness and all this would just come through there like an avalanche and blow you away. And you'll bliss out. And everyone who has participated in this little experience that we're doing here is going to benefit. And it may process it this evening. They may have more vivid dreams. They may have better experiences next week. I don't know. It's none of my business. But I'm just all about love and compassion, and that's what you are, and that's what you hearing this are. That's who you are at your core. And as we start to understand and own that fact, wonderful things happen. Yeah, okay. There's still shift going on, which is just fine. That we like that. And if we're in this state of active transformational reality, heart-centered awareness, the field of unified consciousness, all those good things, if we allow that to be our reality, that everything's user-friendly. And so no matter what a story we attach to our experiences and informational flows, it's all good. It's about being alive. It's about being in form. And it's about being out of form, because those people that are in transitional places, they're on their journey. And it's not for me or you, or George certainly is not going to take responsibility for what's happening there. And that's totally the right position to be. Right? I mean,
it's not my fault. It's not my fault.
And I just put it down to people's incredible creativity. When I hear stories, George, that have so much, I think you have to use the word angst in them. I just go, wow, you're really good, in what you've created, and
powerful beings.
We're powerful beings, and I think what I can't enjoy a virus. Okay, let's be very clear here, everyone. But what we're appreciating is where this takes us and how we have to get present and awaken, and whatever the word is you want to do, in realizing what we're creating and how we are all in a state of oneness. I mean, the way viruses spread, whether it's through the body as a physical thing, or if it's the way it goes through computers and technology. And this is all referencing how it's on a vibratory level, and we're all in it. So we're all in oneness. And what comes is what wholeness is about, how we use information for us, each individual, and what we're responsible for. So,
dovetail on this, I'll just say we are in a vibrational reality. Mm-hmm. What I'm attempt to do with my clients and people that I can positively impact is help them understand that one can raise their own personal vibration or resonant frequency, bring it up toward gratitude, bring it up toward love, and do that and practice that, because practice makes permanent. So the more you tune in to love, forgiveness, joy, happiness, all those sort of things, then habituate that way of being. You're still going to run into jerks on the freeway, okay?
Right.
I mean, it's going to happen, okay? And like you say, there's going to be, I'm not looking forward to becoming sick. I've been sick before. It's no fun. And then this too shall pass. I was talking with the lady at the little local health food store today. I went out and bought some stuff. And it's like, if people could really own the fact, not just know intellectually, but own the fact that, what if we die? You don't cease to exist. That's huge. That's a huge thing. And you can hear that, and you can study it, and you can read it, and so forth. Once you know it, and I mean you know it like you know it, that everything changes, and it gets a lot easier, because there's going to be bumps in the road.
Yeah, we're feeling bumps. The thing is to go over them, not go through them. Go over the bump.
And this anecdotal story, in the Bahamas, they call speed bumps sleeping policemen. Okay, on to the story.
They wake you up. Yeah, exactly. I love that. So tell me about, or what your awareness is of spirituality, religion, consciousness technologies. Consciousness technologies have the more scientific approach, because we're looking at from that. It all works together, and it all falls apart, and the words don't matter. It's just the experience, don't you think? Whatever your perspective.
And there's people who have an animus against religion.
Yes.
Because it's so limited. And I understand that. I grew up in a religion and transitioned and learned things. And the point of it is, the point of religion is, if your awareness is way down there, okay, like I say, on the Hawkins map of consciousness, and your religion teaches you that there is such a thing as hope, and that there is such a thing as love, that you have an experience, and then you hold out hope for it, and then you, with intent, okay, and imagination, you run into it, then you experience it, and then we can grow up into what's keenly called spirituality as opposed to religion, whereas there's not these sets of rules that we have to abide by, or liturgies that we have to perform, or protocols that we have to walk through, but we can have an awareness, as you mentioned, of things in a broader term, and little snippets of information that can make our way to it, that we hear, that we're told from when we're little kids, but we don't own them. Like, you know, Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me. Well, that's all well and good, but I need a job. or I'm sick right now, or whatever else it is, okay?
Yeah.
And the fact that you understand that Christ consciousness is not the same as some guy with a beard and long hair.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the same. But it not only does it exist, it is way more powerful than some guy with a beard.
Mm-hmm.
Way more powerful. And vibrational awareness, you can choose to tap it, and it takes practice, okay? But anybody can access it to the degree we're willing to let go of our preconceived notions, need to be rights, all of our training, because we're going to, for those of us who are on a path toward, draw near to God and He'll draw near to you. And I tell people, the phrase God is love is not just a fairy story. Now, you may not like the term God, and that's okay. But call it source energy, call it universal consciousness, call it the field, whatever you want to call it. The truth of it is that the thing called outgoing concern by the Greeks, agape, that thing exists. And as we approach that, it approaches us because, as many have heard from different sources, the thing that you want wants you. And so get out of the way a little bit. That's what I used to tell people back when I was doing this. What do you do, George? I get me out of the way, help the client get out of the way, and then let divinity have its way with us.
Yeah, there's that infinite being, whatever you might want to call them. And what I've become aware of these last 15 years of doing different consciousness technologies and stuff, is that how you define something takes you to the limit of it. It creates an instant framework. And we're so unconscious in how we use our language and how it creates unknowingly, because we're not in a level of awareness with it, what shows up. And that's one thing. Yeah.
I was going to say, but when we become conscious and start thinking on purpose, wonderful things happen. One example, I used to tell people, take a deep breath. Okay, now I've revised that. Little tiny change. But when we think of take, we hear steal. And now I say, allow yourself a breath. Allow yourself a deep breath. So that little change in the verbiage, it's different. And it's a different vibrational resonance. And so little teeny tiny things like that, like not owning a dis-ease. I have this diagnosis instead of I have blank. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
And our words are very powerful. Not to interrupt, but you're on a roll, Janet. You must be butter because you're on a roll.
Thank you. Yeah, my phone rang. So, yeah, I totally am fascinated. All you have to do is listen to someone and you get their framework, right? And most of us are so unconscious of what we say. And I think self-talk is being present. When you hear your self-talk, you are being present. And you just don't know the power you're holding in that moment, because that is totally shaping in an active, dynamic moment, the next moment.
And I'm getting calls and text messages up the wazoo, and I hear your phone ringing. There's a lot going on at this instant. I'm telling you what.
We must be tapped in here, George.
We're doing something. The universe is awake. Oh, no, whatever shall we do?
Turn them off. So everybody, just be noticing if you're waking up in some way, and be on this ride with George and I, because we're going places. Now, we are going into the unknown. We're going beyond the limits of what we think we are. And everybody just pay attention to that, because this is where we're exploring. Every time he and I are in conversation or suggesting something, it's registering with you on some level. And this is the level of being connected as consciousness, as soul, whatever your words you want to use. And what it's like to feel it shift. So you've got an emotion tagged with everything. We all do. And we're in the midst of an emotional bath here. So notice what might be registering and what it would be like that change is happening on the levels where it wants to happen, because this is all an invitation. This is always an invitation. And that conscious mind may be saying, yeah, no, I'm not, that. And it just shuts up, put it over there, and just let yourself be. And this is wonderful, George, because we're hitting in so many different ways, on so many different places. That's why we are dynamic creatures, because there's always more than one thing going on at one time. So where your attention may be taking you might be serving as distraction for you to allow something else to happen. And that's always fun. So now what are we noticing, George? What you got? I was asking you about, okay, so where does this enter into the science, the consciousness technology part? So we got
jump to the Institute of Noetic Science.
Isn't he wonderful? Oh, Edgar Mitchell's
Joe's work. If anybody has not read You Are the Placebo, go out and get it. It's worth the money. If you want to really jump off the deep end, get Becoming Supernatural, because we are, in fact, electromagnetic critters. Okay. And using the technologies, that Joe teaches, in the meditation.
And that's Joe who? Joe who?
Joe Dispenza, Dr. Joe Dispenza. Yeah. For those of you that saw What the Bleep Do We Know, he's the Create My Day guy. He's his story is inspirational. I'm a student of focused mind healing from Harold McCoy and the Institute of. Anyway, the point being, what Dr. Dispenza did with his own body, because he was injured seriously, was a form of focused mind healing. Now, he doesn't call it that when he explains it, because those two didn't meet each other. But that's what he did. Basically, he reconstructed his spine. Really? He took some tools? No, he didn't take tools. He used mind.
Yeah,
he used mind. And now in those books that I've referenced, he has pictures of the EEGs of people's brains and shows them when they go from beta to high beta to gamma. Now, speaking of matrix energetics, jumping back there for a minute, I don't know how many years ago, Richard Bartlett, our teacher, DCND, was tested, and he found that he went into gamma. That's where his brain went. Brainwaves went when he was doing matrix energetics. And I've since found out with my own work and tested and yada yada, long story short, that's where I go. I go into gamma. And what Joe teaches and what he finds is these people in his seminars, there 10 of them all hooked up to brainwave machines, and scientists and doctors looking and watching them in real time, hello, they go into gamma. Oh, are they having a seizure? No, they're having some kind of experience after which they're changed. Their eczema that was there 20 minutes ago is just physically gone. Now, how is that possible? Never mind how it's possible. All things are possible. All things are not maybe likely. They're not all probable, but they're all possible. And you see enough, and anybody wants to help them change their own minds, watch some of those YouTube videos. He's got testimonials up the wazoo. Google Joe Dispenza, Dr. Joe Dispenza, and testimonials. And there'll be person after person after person telling you what changes they experience going through this process. And it's something anyone can do. We just didn't know about it. 20 years ago, 40, 50 years ago, people were chiropractic. Oh, that chiropractic, that's like witchcraft, right? And today, insurance covers it.
Yeah,
we passed the leading edge. We're on the bleeding edge. We're moving forward, and we ain't going to slow down. I ain't slowing down.
Yeah, we ain't going to slow down.
I may kick in afterburners at any moment. I'll just warn you. I may kick in the afterburners.
Well, I think that's probably what we do when we shed the body, right? It's like, but it takes us out of a sensory experience. I think this is part of being. Being in a form is a sensory experience, and I don't know how those translate out of being in form, but the body seems to come with this remarkable capacity to experience, and that's what it's all about. And it's often organized, I think, around contrast, like Abraham Hicks talks about.
Sure.
And so what shows up in our life is our organization to experience being in form, and how that relates to being and all the dictates that come with expressing dynamics. And Sometimes they're human forms, and sometimes they're animals, and sometimes they're a rock, or they're just an idea that has some kind of context with, and it holds together in some way, and it can occupy mind, it can occupy heart, it can occupy different places. So in the appreciation of the quantum realities and the quantum skill sets of technologies and science, you're talking about the merging and the letting go of this wonderful interaction of how we can experience information, right? Sounds like.
Well, when we're in the body, we have 5 senses and about 13 others and so forth and so on. When one has left the body, I have my best friend in all the world left the body here a few months ago, and they can't tell you what chocolate tastes. I mean, they can tell you from memory, but they can't sense what chocolate tastes like. So there's real benefits to being in 3D Earth. There's also downside. Like I say, there's bumps in the road. But we're in form. But my one thing that I would like to share with whoever is willing to receive it is that we do our best. Everyone does their best, the best they know how. But as we learn more, we do better. We learn more, we do better. And then things will show up in our life. Things will show up that you didn't know you were praying for. And then this thing shows up and you go, how awesome is that? That is like so wonderful. I wasn't even asking for it. But the truth is, it is exactly what I need. It is exactly what I needed. I had no idea. And then it shows up and you begin to experience it. You go, okay, and it'll throw you. It's like an earthquake, okay? It'll bounce you around. Okay, emotions go, oh, what the heck was that? And you're happy, joy, sad, concern, worry, joy, peace, bliss. I'm blissing out. What is it? I'm just blissing out. I'm just all emotional. This too shall pass. You'll get a handle on it. But the ride, it's a roller coaster, all right. But the point of it is, at some point, it stops. You go, okay, I'll get out for a minute. All
well,
right,
and
maybe I'll go again, maybe I won't.
Well, I think that's that being present where that becomes so important, is you realize that something is different. And we may not have a way to articulate or explain it. We just know. And so we're shifting into those senses, which I think gains value, our claircognizant ability, if you're going to think in those terms, in that language, in that it's not what you have knowledge of. It's where you know without any supporting something that leads you to this conclusion.
It doesn't fit conventional definitions.
No, it doesn't have that kind of reference to it.
People say, "Oh, do you hear things, George? Do you see things?" No, I perceive them. Perceive them. Give you an example. I'm working with this elderly lady. This is years ago, and I noticed that her left eye is in really bad shape. And so I'm guided, is the only way I can express it, to just remove that one. And here comes in space out there 3 or 4 feet in front of me in this ethereal thing, here's a new eye. Go ahead and install that one. That may not make any sense, but you go ahead, you take the old one, oh boy, it did need to replace. And you put the new one in, long story short, finish the session, and the woman says, I didn't mention it before because she had said nothing to me about having pain in her eye. Yeah. I had nothing, but my left eye doesn't hurt anymore. Okay, good. So cut to the chase. A year later, she goes to her ophthalmologist, and she tells me the story. Oh, that's interesting. The left eye was the weaker one, and now it's stronger. She didn't tell them I had a session with George. And he replaced my eyeball.
Yeah, right.
Because up until that moment, I had never been handed a new eyeball in space. Okay?
Yeah.
I had not had that experience.
Right.
But you get open to things, and
it's not, because I'm always sharing with people, we have our hands, and so you look at your hands, and those are real, right? And then you see the space between your hands, and this is the realm of where the space between your hands is as full of information, if not more, as what you notice as your hands. And that in allowing yourself to be open in your creative energy dynamic, right, that you have no limits. And that's the truth of it. We put limits on and say this is this and that is that, and you're immediately now into compartmentalization and separateness. And we are going back in this state. Everybody just notice, if we're not into compartmentalization, then there is the freedom, and everybody wants to be out of a body because they associate the freedom with being out of form. Life is really, truly, my thing, George, is about experiencing the freedom being in form. So how I do this is how I think about it, how I allow my rule sets to be. So if my reality is in that being able to experience information without having to say it is something in particular is absolute freedom. And this is where that's where I look to resonate in, right? Yeah. So being able, just everybody notice, we're probably coming up on some kind of time, which I didn't reset my clock when we had all our distractions. So just notice, everyone. What if you were free? What does that feel like? Look at that bandwidth. Picture a bandwidth, all right? We've got vibratory levels there and resonances, and George mentioned how appreciation and gratefulness, etc., are a different place in this bandwidth. Just allow, and we're going to go with visual, or you can do it because you can get a bigger picture, I think, at one time. The range. Life is a bandwidth, vibrations. Right? Some are resonating in different tonal qualities. So we hold certain references in the human form. But if you're a dog, you're going to have a bigger range. It's the same range. It's just where the levels of awareness are set, that come with the dictates of the form. That's all. So in allowing ourselves to look at life perhaps this way, and the elements you find in life in this way. Notice resonances and vibrations and see what strikes you. Notice if you hear a song, perhaps. And that's really interesting, George, because I went somewhere and I don't know where I am. So I hope you
notice what you notice. You know what we were taught. Notice what you notice.
Yes,
notice what you notice. It's so huge. It's so huge.
Yeah, and I think that's what it is welcome to Spectrum, everybody. Is that you can allow yourself to come into harmony, into resonance on different levels. So at the level you're at, in time and space being a little different, and what you're noticing is the support, and I'll call it feels like support to me, of being. When there's no agenda, it is always, to me, this field, George, is warmth, support, non-judgment. And the one challenge was 0 point field in all our trainings was that registered cold to me, and there's nothing warm and vibrant to cold for me in that sense. So in being without judgment, with being opening and welcoming to the unknown, notice how those fields of boundaries in some way, that's what I'm noticing, George, right in this moment, is I can see fencing. And what it would be like for the fencing to start to change. What it'd be like to not have to hold yourself separate from a neighbor. Because the truth is that is a construct that we've set up. And you can look across the fence and connect to that neighbor. Yeah.
Here's
Go for it. Okay.
You're in the midst with all the others, and there's a fence around you. And the fence falls outward,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can call it sad, unfortunate, whatever term you want to, that most folks will go, okay, the fence is down, but I'm okay right here. The truth is, beyond that fence, there's some really cool stuff. Really cool stuff. And it's not near as bad. And I want to say this one thing, and I know whatever time we're using it, we're using time. But I wanted to say something to you and everybody else that ever hears this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that I only tell, okay? I only tell this to all my clients. Okay? And that is this point, that whoever hears this next phrase, this next part that I'm going to say, this is directed specifically at you there behind your eyes, you there, the personal you that hears this, you right there. You are loved and appreciated, and by way more than just me, way more. And that support is there, and it isn't going away.
Well, I think this is why we offer an invitation always, don't you think, George? Is because the fence can go down, but we might be hesitant to go cross.
Because we're used to staying in this area. We're used to whatever we're used to.
So when you look and you see that you are being appreciated by the other, and that the hand is extended, and what it would be like to connect and step out of your limits, wonder happens.
Yeah, I got, I don't know if anybody there's familiar with QHHT, but I had I've had that training, and I had a QHHT session with myself here back last month. And one of the things that I was told was that you honor us by asking for our help. And by us and our, I mean those on the other side, angels, God, spirit guides, whatever phrases you want to put on it. There's non-corporeal, and there's spirit, and there's energy, and just chomping at the bit. I tell my clients, the angels stand on the sidelines all day long saying, put me in, coach, let me help, put me in, let me help. And the coach always says the same thing, as soon as they ask. As soon as they ask. And that's our job. Ask, reach out, like you say, reach your hand out. You'll be surprised that all those hands reaching back to you and all that support that's there. Boy, I didn't know that was there. Of course you didn't. You've been trapped in this fence. Mm-hmm. Okay? Because that's where we all have habituated ourselves in being. Well, the universe is changing. We're going through some transitions. I mean, anybody doesn't catch on that there's things changing all around us. Okay. Would you like some coffee? Pretty awesome stuff.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's it. All right, George. I want to thank you so very much. This has been totally unexpected delight, which is what it always is, in being present. So what is it you want to leave our listeners with in awareness?
I would love for them to visit my website, which is iwantjoy.com, easy to remember. It's good old www.iwantjoy.com. I would love for them to go to my YouTube channel. There's useful videos. If you've heard of tapping or EFT or fascial or EFT or emotional freedom technique, there are samples there that guide you through Robert G. Smith's iteration, which Craig gave us the original, and I take Gary Craig's information and Robert's information and Louise Hay's information from You Can Heal Your Life, those stories, and have sample videos on what if you have a headache, what if you have a backache, what if you have cataracts. Those are a few of the samples. But that's, George B. Thomas Jr., YouTube. Anyway, it's all connected on my website. But thank you so much, Janet, because this has been fun for me. This has been awesome for me. I have really, say I thoroughly enjoyed it. There's things I thoroughly enjoyed, and then this is on another scale. So I'm very grateful, appreciative. Very grateful.
It's been an absolute delight, George. And maybe sometime you'll come back and we can have a different conversation about being alive, right? All right.
About velour blankets or room dividers.
Those really, intensely.
Audio radiance.
Yes. Okay. There's just all kinds of things we can talk about. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us here. It's been a delight, George. Thank you so much. George offers us many influences that he enjoys and is happy to share. David Hawkins, MD, PhD, is the author of Power versus Force and Let Go of Control, along with other consciousness-addressing material. There's the Institute of Noetic Sciences, and books and videos from Dr. Joe Dispenza, such as Get Supernatural and You Are the Placebo, Wayne Dyer's book, You'll See It When You Believe It, the work of Edgar Cayce, Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz, Harold McCoy and the Ozark Research Institute. You can check out George's free video, Guided Meditation for Enhanced Health and Prosperity, is available on his YouTube channel. And at our podcast episode 33 website page at www.janetandbeyond.com, you will find all the links. Here are some other bits of wisdom to enjoy that caught my ear this time. Changing our thought patterns requires creating new habits of thinking. Ducci Palmieri. No problem can be solved from the same level of consciousness that created it. Albert Einstein. And as far as we can discern, the sole purpose of human existence is to kindle a light of meaning in the darkness of mere being. Carl Jung. Happiness is our featured meditation from Interlude, an internet retreat. George and I shared a lot about cultivating happiness.
Happiness. What would happen if you were in a state of perpetual bliss? Let's say you figured out how to activate those parts of your brain that trigger pleasure, satisfaction, and a sense of well-being. And you could just keep pulling that trigger. Would you get anything done? Would you bother to talk with anyone? Would you work or create or exercise if you could be blissed out automatically? In all likelihood, life would grind to a halt. Why would you scratch if you didn't have an itch? Why would you earn a living, get food, cook it, and eat it if you could feel just as good empty as full? How would you know to take your hand out of the fire if it felt as good when burning as when not? States of discomfort are essential to life. If you stop breathing for 60 seconds, you'll get a strong sensation that you should resume the procedure. That's a good thing. It assures that you continue to do an essential life function. Would you want to eliminate the suffering that goes with not breathing? It seems that pleasure keeps us seeking life-affirming action, and discomfort keeps us avoiding life-threatening experiences. So, while we're alive, we can assume that we will be presented with an ever-varying array of pleasant and unpleasant experiences. That's a good thing. If we are able to respond to these adaptively, appropriately, we may find ourselves in the flow, and being in the flow generates a sense of satisfaction. The trick then is to figure out how to get pleasure from the right things and which things it's right to avoid. When we seek pleasure from things that give bad consequences, we generate more suffering. When we avoid things that we need for life, we also generate suffering. If we stay confused about which is which, we will waste our energy, depression will ensue, and the system will shut down to prevent us from wasting any more energy and doing more harm. If we are wise, we have the ability to judge which thoughts, words, and deeds will be good and which will not. To make that judgment, though, we need to see beyond the present moment and beyond our limited self. To be happy, we cannot always choose immediate gratification or choose self-interest over the interests of others. Meditation is a tool we have for helping make these discernments. As they say, life comes at you fast. When we meditate, we slow it down. The clarity of mind we find in meditation helps us sort through the choice points. A calm and steady mind is one that is responsive. The one-pointed meditative mind can more readily see through the thicket of confusing stimuli and impulses so that we can respond with clear intention to fears and desires. When we examine the nature of our own mind, our experience, and our sense of self, we may recognize our interconnectedness with other beings and with the universe. Our choices then can be less selfish and therefore more likely to be virtuous, true, and wholesome. Life then will work out better and we'll be more likely to experience the emotions we prefer.
Many things are happening in the world as I sit to focus and write this blog for this episode 33 with George. It is easy to be distracted by the emotional turmoil present in those who are compromised to pay their rent, and my medical friends on the front lines dealing with the realities of those in distress. All are doing their best to keep themselves mentally and physically healthy, and the rest of us safe. My sense is to go deeper, below the clamor, to my sense of my own essence for the quiet and sacred I hold within, which is what this episode and every episode in this podcast is about, going beyond the clamor of self into consciousness. And the going beyond is not so much an outward experience, but an inward sense of within. That is what we all can know, that what we are all looking for in connection is not out there, but in here. In our social distancing, more are becoming aware of our true nature of oneness. How, without the distractions of busy and doing, what things look like, we share in this collective experience we call consciousness. We invite what we have not been paying attention to express. It is our fears, it is our love and appreciation about life and being present in what we have collectively created in our clumsy ways, this reality we find ourselves in. It is a time of immediacy, not something to think about. There is no time to process except in real time, and it feels like time can be running out. It is not. We can expand it instead. Shift to our inner essence, where our time and space senses are malleable. As the days tick off the calendar, as illness gestates for some and passes by others. Create time to catch up with breathing into awareness, twinkle-lighted particles of wonder. Breathe in wonder and life. Breathe out the dissolving stickiness of fear and compromise. Interesting. Compromise is in the air. We are experiencing what happens when we don't listen, when we let the fear in life dictate our thoughts and manifest into reality. This is a great time to sit in awareness. Many were so busy during our formerly regular days that we lost awareness of our internal messages at the time they were happening. In these non-regular days we are now in, what are you thinking about? Just hear yourself talk. What did you just think? Then notice how you feel when the thought repeats. Does it upset you? Does it calm you? Does your gut tighten? Does your heart twinge? Does your neck ache now? All are clues to your inner health and harmony. You can go deeper. Your breath will take you there without thinking. If you knew in tangible ways that what you sense and feel and think produced results immediately, would you pay better attention to those senses, feelings, and thoughts? If you understood that we are all creating our reality together, you may have your rules about life set to follow others in their awareness, and you might check that setting. Life is about immediacy, in the moment. We organize with our senses of time and space to slow things down and create overtime. Shift and change can and do happen in a moment, and a week is lots of moments. In particular, this episode is about how it can be easier than you think to love and appreciate yourself in new ways. that it can be easier to let loose the fear and sense of entitlement that has blossomed in the air as a virus. If we use our wisdom and pay attention now, we will see around us those who think small, think keep out, think that they come before others, that worthiness has a price. We need to remember that future projections are just that, projections, and not fact. They are playing the odds. They are set in the reality that if nothing changes, this will happen. So join me and George and my friends and colleagues and others in understanding what it takes to get from here to there. Feel, without attachment to what we think we know, into your inner realm that is. Right in this moment, your truth. We are the change. It is happening now. Be present now. George is available for clinical and remote sessions by appointment. Call or text to 832-331-5468 or email george@iwantjoy.com. His YouTube channel is George B. Thomas Jr. and you can find him on Facebook at two different pages, facebook.com/miraclesman and facebook.com/seekingtransformation. I want to be sure to mention that Boyd, our very talented and patient sound engineer, is also the owner of Pure Energy RX. If you are feeling stressed, you might consider using some of the energetic formula supplements and products he sells, everything from energy medicines to essential oils. You will find them reasonably priced, and he offers lots of personal service and information. You can reach Boyd at pureenergyrx@gmail.com and at pureenergyrx on Facebook and Twitter. Be sure to at least sign up to receive his wonderful newsletter. It is always full of interesting information about the latest on the cutting edges of science, medicine, and consciousness. Thank you for joining me here at Journeys to Enlightenment with Janet. A new episode is released every 2 weeks. Any questions or thoughts or guests you'd like to suggest, you can email me directly at janetandbeyondpodcast@outlook.com. For more information about all the elements that make up each episode, they are on my podcast page at my website, www.janetandbeyond.com. While there, you will also find information about my other podcast show, Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet, and all about my work with clients. You can sign up to receive my regular weekly blog, Life in the Beyond, Journeys into Enlightenment. If you're looking for other regular opportunities to sit in heart-centered awareness with myself and others, you can join us in my Fuzzy Photons playground groups I offer on Wednesdays. Live interactive space via Zoom video conferencing. You can follow each episode of this podcast series on my YouTube channel, Journeys into Enlightenment with Janet Barrett. Till the next time, notice what feels different right in this moment. It is real, and it can last a lifetime.